I used to come here on vacation for many, many years, and I saw an opening in the 1990s to bring this craft down here. I had left Waterford Crystal, where I was an apprentice and master craftsman. So they actually blow the crystal in Waterford City, and I cut the crystal here in Dingle.
Who would your customers be?
I would imagine maybe over 70% of my customer base would possibly go to North America. The rest would be local market for gifts, weddings,
football matches,
anything. You know, the local GAA tournaments, we'd often do certain pieces. This week now we're doing the Dunleary to Dingle yacht race. The first thing we do, Mícheál, is that we would get the goblet and we cut the stem on it. And that's cut on a flat diamond wheel.
What do you mean by cut the stem now?
It means it's hand cut on a diamond wheel, on one of these wheels here. And then we mark out the bowl for design, is what I'm doing at the moment. So we mark out the bowl of the crystal like this.
So that pattern was in your mind now before you started at all?
It was. This was a pattern that, it's called a Skellig pattern. It's a very rugged, heavy diamond cut that I do, very traditional Irish pattern.
Would all sets of that now be roughly similar, or are they all unique?
They're all unique.
Separate?
They're all slightly separate because the next pattern might be a fraction higher or it may be a fraction heavier, and that's the beauty of handmade crystal.
Is it?
Yeah, that's fine. Now, and this is Mícheál's design. His cuts were running like that.
Look, the flame is going in the right direction.
It is going in the right direction.
With the wind.
Absolutely. The craft trail is very important. Last weekend in Killarney we had the Harley Davidson rally, and I had a group of 20 French Harley Davidson riders who actually booked to come in and see here last Sunday.
I'm sure you were able to tell them how old a tradition it is in this country.
Absolutely, and I explained to them that we've got a tradition of glass blowing and glass cutting going back to the 1700s. Certainly we've been affected by the recession. Sales have dropped, and the last couple of years we've noticeably a decrease in business. But I have to say that this year, in 2011, I think tourism is on the way back. American tourists are travelling again. We've had the Queen, we've had President Obama.
But now you're not telling me you had the Queen here.
No, we hadn't, but it's certainly bringing lots of people to Ireland.
Yeah, you think the effects of her trip and the trip of President Obama? Yes.
For the future, yes.
It's good for business.
I think it's fantastic, yeah.
What's the biggest challenge you see now to your type of business?
Well, I found in the 1990s the traditional type designs of Irish crystal was gone out of fashion and everything went very minimalistic. Today, the traditional cuts are coming back into fashion again. I have a son that's working with me at the moment. He's in the shop, and in the winter months he'll be here when things are quieting down, and we'll train him to cut.
So, good night, Rilacho. I'm in the right place. We're at the second stop in our craft trail of Kerry, and we were directed here. Now, what's the name of this?
This is Kerry Crafted Glass. Kerry Crafted Glass.
Now, is there any way that this is different to other crafted glasses? Are it different?
Basically, we're only one of two left in Ireland that's making handmade pieces of glass. And our glass is all made from 100% recycled material, which makes it very different.
How come that you got into this business? Was it something that was handed down?
No, it was a job advertised in a glassworks in Killarney in 1979. I joined that company and I gave 18 years with them. That closed up.
18 years of learning.
Of learning my process.
It took all that time.
Well, basically the initial stage is 7 years apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And part of that apprenticeship was going to England. I gave about 6 months in the Isle of Wight, learning the skills. Then I went to Langham Glass, which is Norfolk in England again, developing more skills.
How far away does your product travel?
Well, in Ireland itself, we're in about 15 to 20 shops around Ireland that sell our product for us.
Yeah.
We have an agent in the States, he sells us for us there. We sell through the internet, and a lot of, thank goodness, a lot of local people now, they're interested in buying our product here at home actually, which is very important, really and truly. At 1120, 1130, like I say, that's your working temperature. You gather out your clear glass on a gathering iron, which is basically a lint of steel hollow in the middle. And on a table, you have your different coloured glass laid out, and you roll the hot glass into whatever colours you're working on the day. And due to the fact the glass is so hot, it'll pick up the colour will stick to it. Pick up your colour, go back to the mouth of the furnace that you've gathered out of originally, and you melt. Due to the heat inside in the furnace, the colour melts into that gather of glass. So every piece of glass basically consists of clear, colour and clear. You go back to your bench, and you sit on the bench, and using one hand for rolling the gather iron, and the other hand for shaping and moulding the piece, you begin the process of making your piece of glass.
So you'd want hands like a goalkeeper?
You basically would, yes. Hands on all, that's exactly. That's what you do. At a certain stage, when you have the glass blown out, you need to transfer that piece of glass from the blowing iron onto what they call a ponty iron. And this ponty iron, this is what makes it a handmade piece of glass. It distinguishes it from what they call crystal glass.
Yes.
It's the old traditional way of blowing it.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying there's only one or two of us left in it. So you need a second person with you. That person goes back over to the furnace, puts another gather iron into the pot of hot glass, gathers a small piece of glass on the end of it. We attach that iron onto the base of the piece that we have blown. That person holds what we call the ponty iron. I tap the blowing iron, and you break the blown piece away from it. You go back to the mouth of the furnace, get your piece nice and hot, come back to your bench, open it up, shape it and finish it off.
Shape it to what
according to the piece that you want.
What you have in there.
Exactly, the piece you desire to make.
Yeah.
That's
now, what are the challenges?
Well, we see ourselves for the last year and a half, 2 years, due to the fact of the country the way it is at the moment, people haven't had the disposable income to buy a luxury product.
But you understand why?
I can understand that, to be honest with you. I can relate that.
Maybe in a gaka and another shall that'll pass as well.
It's real, certainly things comes around full circle.
Yeah.
That's it. My main challenge is developing new product, more entails. Obviously getting more people up here, getting our product recognised. And
you're always on the lookout for a new product?
Oh, you are, yes. You develop new product
at all. Is it a question of sitting down and thinking, or would you be looking at rival ones?
Yes, correct. Or even see something sculptured in wood or some other craft and see, can you adapt that to the glass? That's what I normally would do.
And
the
next generation of McSweeney's, are they interested?
At the present, well, I have 3 girls, and at the present moment, they dabble a little in it, but I'm not sure.
But wouldn't they have more delicate touches?
Maybe they would, yes. They probably would, yes. And there's different styles of glass making. They could develop that themselves, rather than going to jewellery or going to different pieces of it.
So you'd hope for that?
Oh yes, overall we are, yes. We'd hopefully continue.
Well, good night, and
Precious, thank you.
We'll move on maybe to the third stage now, on our craft trail of Kerry, and I find that almost at every crossroads.
Thank you.
So we're in a bindery.
In a bindery, yes.
Now, what's the history of binderies in Ireland? It must be pretty old.
Well, bookbinding is huge, going back to the late 1600s and early 1700s in Dublin. And there's a whole school of bookbinding, as with a style of bookbinding, which is indigenous to Dublin. And a lot of the older bindings that would come in, we could figure out who the bookbinder was by the tooling on the spines of them, because he would have had little brass hand tools, which he stamps, small brass hand tools, a la like some of these. There's an Irish harp, for instance. And you'd see the little flaw, and you'd know that that could have been bound by, say, Mullen, who was a famous binder in Dublin in the 1720s and 30s. But what we do here in this area is I do the gold tooling for the volumes. So a customer would come in with a volume to be bound, and they could choose the leather or the marble papers and things for it. Most of the conservation and repair we do in the lab next door. And then in here, when the book is covered in leather and dried, the tooling would be done. Years ago, when they bound with best practice, they hadn't really had an eye towards conservation. Now we try to bind with the same techniques. So the idea would be that we use acid-free boards and acid-free papers and linen threads.
We're in the Muckross bindery here in Killarney. What's the main work that goes on here?
Over the years, we've done a lot of commercial work, commercial binding for people who come in off the street. But mainly our volume of work is in conservation. It's in book conservation and paper conservation. So we'd have a lot of clients, University College in Cork, for instance, we do the conservation for those, libraries and institutions. And the Heritage Council would give grants to a library or to a collector, to an archive for their paper-based material.